Cody Bellinger is a New York Yankee. Let's talk about it on Fantasy Baseball today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Thursday, December 19th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers. The Yankees have acquired Cody Bellinger and cash considerations from the Cubs in exchange for Cody Poteet, essentially a salary dump here for the Cubs. And Cody Bellinger, 29 years old, coming off an okay season, not nearly as good as his first one with the Chicago Cubs. But Chris, just in terms of landing spot for ballpark and hitting in the middle of what should be, I think, an okay to pretty good lineup with the Yankees, this feels like a good landing spot for Cody Bellinger.
I think it's just about the best landing spot you could hope for. If you look at Baseball Savant's X home run stat from last year, I believe Yankee Stadium would have been the third best park for Cody Bellinger in 2024. He is not the guy he used to be, right? The mammoth raw power, he doesn't have that anymore. Now it's kind of average raw power. He doesn't really hit the ball that hard. So what he does really well is he makes a lot of contact. He sprays line drives all over the outfield. And when he hits the ball in the air, he tends to hit it to the pull side. Doesn't tend to hit it very far. That was a problem in Wrigley Field. And Wrigley Field weirdly played very pitcher friendly last season, especially relative to its norms. So yeah, this is about as good of an upgrade as you could have hoped for Cody Bellinger. I moved him up right around to 100 overall in my rankings. He's in the we'll see where Christian Walker ends up, but he's in that range now, right around the 12th best first baseman. Outfield, I think it's like 22. I moved him ahead of Brian Reynolds after this trade. And to be clear, about as obvious a salary dump as you're going to see in the majors. A Cody for Cody trade. That's the first time that's ever happened in Major League history. So that's fun. But Cody Poteet, rotation depth at best, even in a bad rotation like the Cubs. Or mediocre rotation like the Cubs. So the Cubs clearly needed to get rid of him. I think they're not done. I think another trade's probably coming because they still have kind of a glut of outfielders right now. Seiya Suzuki projected to be in the DH role, something he bristled at the end of last season. So yeah, Cody Bellinger, 26th overall outfielder for me. So I do think he's squarely in the must-start range.
Yeah, I do agree. I think another move could be coming for the Cubs, but assuming they don't acquire a third baseman and there is a spot available for their top prospect, Matt Shaw, he is a name that needs to be on your radar. There have been 4 NFBC drafts completed since Saturday after the Kyle Tucker trade went down. Matt Shaw's ADP in those 4 drafts is 245. So now firmly being drafted as a late round option in a mixed league. And someone you need to know. Again, that name is Matt Shaw. The A's acquired Jeffrey Springs and Jacob Lopez from the Rays in exchange for Joe Boyle, Jacob Waters, Will Simpson, and a compensatory draft pick. And poor Jeffrey Springs going from one minor league ballpark to another. He returned from Tommy John surgery last season. He made 7 starts, looked pretty good, 3.27 ERA. 136 whip is definitely high, but the swing and miss was still there. The questions here, Chris, the velocity was down 2 miles per hour for Springs, and he ended the season on the IL with left elbow fatigue. So I think there are some pretty big question marks. What do you think about his move over to the Athletics?
And one other thing to keep in mind is, there's been a lot of really good research over the past couple of years about the effects of Tropicana Field on pitcher stuff, whether it's batters don't see the ball as well, but I've actually seen the ball moves more at Tropicana Field. Like pitchers get more rise on their fastballs. And that would seem to be especially helpful for a guy who even at his best averages 91 miles per hour with his fastball. I think you can look at it and say the Rays know Jeffrey Springs best, and they decided to not entirely salary dump him, but they didn't get a ton back. I think the best piece they got back is probably the compensatory pick, which is going to be in the 40-ish range in next year's draft. So not nothing, but not a huge return for a guy who at his best has been a very, very good starting pitcher. So it's concerning. It's a park downgrade. It's probably a team context downgrade overall. I think Springs is fine as a late round pick still, but the path forward is certainly rockier now that he's not with the Rays and is with the Athletics.
The ADP in December for Springs is 244.5. Would you rather take Jeffrey Springs or Ronel Blanco?
I'd rather have Springs than Blanco.
What about Springs versus Gavin Williams?
I'd rather have Springs than Williams as well, but I could see Williams, like if we get to spring training and he's got his slider back, especially something he didn't really throw very much last year, I could see Gavin Williams getting some helium in spring in a way that, I don't know, unless Springs goes back out and starts throwing 92 in spring, I don't think his ADP is likely to rise much.
All right, for more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again on Saturday. Bye-bye.